Following news of rising house and rental prices, this week on Street Stories I'm looking at Christchurch's housing crisis, or as the Minister puts it, housing challenge. You won't find many first home buyers on these leafy Fendleton streets. Cantabrians are crying out that homes are too expensive to either rent or own. But before we delve into those issues, let's look at what happens when someone slips off the housing ladder altogether.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Richard. Happy birthday to you.
This looks like any community gathering. People have come together to share a laugh and some kai. There's music, even laughter. However, this is no happy situation. These are Christchurch's homeless, people who for a variety of reasons have nowhere to live, nowhere to call home. For some it's a life choice, but for others it's not so simple. Drugs and alcohol sometimes are to blame, but not always. We filmed this group in March, back when the days were long. Even then their numbers were growing.
You know, we've just been here every week, every Monday without fail. We're here, soup, bread, and we feed these guys, you know, with them.
Neil runs the group. A former drug addict, he spent time on the streets. This is how he's been giving back for the past 2 years.
We started over the river over there with about 14 or 16 people, and now it can be anywhere between 70 and 80.
They line up one behind the other, shuffling forward to accept a plate of food. Who are these people who rely on the generosity of strangers for their meals?
People come here with needs, some come here for sociable things. You know, some of these guys can actually feed themselves, but they come here just for community. And we've got all sorts of people, you know, there's people on the street, young people.
In the crowd we meet Gary. After spending decades living on the streets, he now has a home, but he still comes back for the social experience. Many of his friends are homeless. He says Christchurch has a serious problem.
There's about average 138 people that stay on the streets, and there's over 600 people, including people that stay in their cars.
Social housing isn't always the answer. The housing stock was wrecked in the earthquakes, and for some people, it's not an option at all.
You know, it breaks your heart. You know, some of these guys can't even get houses because of different issues that they've had in the past. You know?
Mickey's a regular at the nightly dinners.
My circumstances, I'm living in an abandoned house at the moment because my house fell down during the earthquake. So I'm homeless, nowhere to go, and there's not much help for us out there at all. These fellas are a lifesaver for us. If it wasn't for them, I don't think much of us would be fed.
It's good to have a bit of food in our bellies so we can survive for the next day.
It's no secret that Christchurch's homeless are living inside abandoned buildings. Mickey was one of 15 squatters arrested when police raided the earthquake-damaged Victoria Towers last year. These police photographs detail the mess.
I've been caught in an abandoned building, which was a $430 fine, or 3 months in jail. But after then, I've just been living in abandoned houses, one after the other.
Last year, homeless man Terry Baker died when a fire tore through the abandoned, quake-damaged home he was sleeping in. Following a spate of arson attacks, Christchurch police are worried he won't be the only one to be killed. Police are aware of young people squatting inside flats. While filming, I met a group of teens with nowhere to call home. One of them spoke to me about sleeping inside abandoned buildings.
I've been living on the streets for the last 7 months.
What's that been like?
Not too bad, but shit.
The church group feeds, clothes and supplies him with blankets. He says they're keeping him alive.
How many young people are living on the street, do you think?
A few. I reckon just a few too many.
Different organisations donate food Monday to Sunday. However, the problem doesn't seem to be going away. In April, I turned up for another dinner, this time at Latimer Square. One of the first people I spoke to was another teenager, another runaway. He knew of 10 others like him living on the street.
I've been kicked out of my dad's place.
So where are you living now?
Just in abandoned buildings and that. Yeah.
Is that pretty tough?
Yep. You don't know if anyone's going to come in or anything. It's pretty hard to get to sleep and that because you don't know if it's going to fall down in an earthquake or something like that. Yeah.
Peter Davis has been volunteering for the Salvation Army for 12 years.
Not so much the food is what attracts the people here, but it's just to talk to them, and if there's people in need of help, or we've got the Salvation Army has the infrastructure where we can get out and help these guys.
He didn't seem surprised by the teenagers looking for a meal.
It is a concern, yes, yeah, that people in that situation, but that's the way of the world it is today. Young people they're looking for food, they're looking for company, and we're here if we can help them. And they need guidance as well sometimes.
But he was only 16.
Yes, yeah. I don't know. You don't know where their families are. You know their situations. We talk to them, but sometimes they'll open up.
Some of the people we met were homeless by choice. Craig lives under a bridge, but that's the way he likes it.
So how long have you been living at Rough for?
I wouldn't call it rough. Well, rough to me is not having Jesus Christ in your life. I got it easy.
Gary was also present at the dinner. He took us for a short tour of his city.
Where are these people living?
They're living in hard, abandoned buildings, most houses that have been red zone, or buildings that have got damage in the earthquake. About 15 people stayed in here. About 20 people stayed in that place over there.
The homeless problem is vast and something needs to be done before winter sets in. Already the nights are cold. The earthquakes have impacted on the city's homeless problem. Mickey had a home before the earthquake, now he has nothing. Other people have been forced out due to rising rents. Last year, Christchurch Mayor Leanne Dalzell said the plight of one family was a wake-up call to the city. 35-year-old Nellie Hunt and her 3 children were given 90 days to leave their rental property. 3 social agencies worked to find them a new home, but to no avail.
We've tried for 90 days to get a house, but we can't find anything under $500.
If all my money seems to be going just on the rent, my kids miss out, I miss out, and then we probably still would have no home at the end of the day, because it'd be too much for me to afford.
The only option left was to pitch a tent at Waltham Park.
Tears can only do so much for me, but I still had to come back to the reality. This is where me and my kids are going to live for I don't know how long, until I can get somewhere decent.
Luckily for Nellie, she didn't have to wait long. She was offered a home for $300 a week. She happily took it. However, the very next day, more people claiming to be homeless had arrived at the park. Nellie had started a movement.
I'm living in my car, and I just thought, really on the back of the momentum that Nellie's generated, we really have to keep this homeless situation in public focus.
When the group heard about Nellie, they decided to follow her lead.
If people got nowhere to go, come down and pitch a tent. You know, show the government and other people in higher places that we need help and that the situation is a crisis, yes.
They told us they believed the government and the council had no idea how bad the situation really is.
It's not an invisible problem. These are real people that need real homes.
Coming up, for those who have scraped together enough cash, how easy is it to get a roof over their heads?
And it's just a struggle for us guys that, you know, have average incomes.
Christchurch is in the middle of a housing shortage. There just aren't enough to go around. That's the media hype. So why then are there 150 listings on Trade Me for rooms in houses below the average rental price? If you're after one bedroom, you can snap one up for only $130 a week. The cheapest 2-bedroom unit starts at $270, and a 3-bedroom home can be rented from $340. On paper it looks as though it should be easy enough to find a flat. There are hundreds listed on Trade Me. So, on Saturday I went to a flat viewing for a 3-bedroom home priced at $450 a week. According to a recent Sarah report, that's just $10 shy of Auckland's average weekly rental price. The viewing started at 2 p.m. We arrived 5 minutes late and already a crowd had started to form. This couple were one of the first to arrive. They live in Timaru, but are so desperate to find a flat in Christchurch, they're travelling here twice a week for viewings.
Being in Timaru and trying to bring ourselves towards Christchurch is quite hard, especially with the housing market being quite expensive, and it's just a struggle for us guys that, you know, have average incomes.
Their quest for housing is costing them $120 a week in petrol, money they could be saving to put towards those ever-increasing rental prices. The chance to increase their incomes is what has motivated the young couple to relocate to Christchurch.
I can walk into a job straight away as soon as I get here.
Just need a house.
Just need a house.
Yet whenever they turn up to a viewing, they're joined by dozens of other desperate people.
It's all about hope, really. And hopefully a bit of luck as well.
Yes.
Luck on our sides.
Nicole and her partner have been facing a similar problem over the last 5 months. It's not that there aren't houses available, it's just that demand quickly outstrips supply.
Email the agent asking for a viewing time, thinking they're going to set one up privately, and you get there and there's like 10 other people and you're like, oh. And you're trying to like talk to them so they know who you are, but there's all these other people trying to talk to them and you just give up and walk out.
They've looked at 50 different rentals during their 5 months hunting. Time's running out. They need to leave their current place in just a few weeks.
I've been to viewings all this week and heard nothing so far. So hopefully this house is going to bring me good luck and I'll get it.
The landlord says demand is so high. Some people have offered to pay her more than the listed price of $450 a week. After seeing dozens of people come through her home, she can only choose one family or couple.
You just have to say sorry to lots of people. Yeah, just feel bad. Feel, you know, you can't help them. So a bit helpless. Yeah.
These tenants may soon be competing with hundreds of beneficiaries making the move to Christchurch. The government's offering a cash incentive if unemployed New Zealanders move to the Garden City. Housing Minister Nick Smith says the $3,000 grant could be used by beneficiaries to relocate and can also be put towards their bond. The minister says it won't strain the market. However, these potential tenants disagree.
I think it's all very well that they get the money, which will help them out, but it's not going to make it any easier on them to find a property.
And you know that firsthand as well?
Oh, exactly. It's all the people that are coming, you know, you've got a slim chance of getting it anyway, so it's going to help bring people in, but it's not going to help them find anywhere to live any faster.
They already think $450 a week is too expensive, but it's no match for these eye-watering prices. People are moving out while their homes are repaired and rebuilt. They need a place to stay, but only for a few months at a time. Hundreds of property owners are now cashing in on the extra demand for temporary accommodation. And surprisingly, it's the insurance companies that are footing the bill. Welcome to paradise. With a great view, 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, this Mount Pleasant rental could be your home away from home. That's if you're willing to stump up more than $1,300 a week for the privilege of staying here.
So this is the master bedroom bathroom.
Are the taps gold plated?
Silver plated.
Silver plated. If you're getting earthquake repairs done, your insurance company will even foot the bill. That's what's happening in the case of Michelle Kane and her family. While their home's fixed up, they're paying $220 a night to stay here, courtesy IAG.
It's not flash, certainly not $220 a night flash.
Is that worth it? That's $1,540 a week.
That is very expensive.
More than $7,000 during your 5-week stay here.
That's right. Is it worth it? It's worth it to have somewhere to stay that we can bring our dog. Is it worth it? No, it's not worth it. But that's supply and demand in the rental market at the moment.
Christchurch landlord Gregory Kulinov says there's money to be made. He's rented out his Kashmir property since the start of the year. As he rents the bottom half and top half at separate rates, he's made more than $40,000 from the short-term market. He's not worried about the market collapsing anytime soon.
EQC are probably only into 10 or 20% into their repairs. The insurance companies, I would say, not much more than that. So there is going to be higher demand, I think, for housing.
He's renting his Mount Pleasant home out for $13.50 a week. He purchased the property last year solely for the short-term market. And after $30,000 of repairs, his first tenants have moved in.
$13.50 a week might sound quite high, but this includes power, this includes internet, this includes the house being cleaned before the tenants move in, after they move out, or the garden done.
Michelle Kane says her insurance company, IAG, told her there was no limit to how much she could spend a week as long as it was within the market value. But what happens when rebuild delays turn a short-term stay into a much longer one? One person I've spoken to has been out of her house for nearly 9 months. In that time she's been paying $750 a week, racking up a bill of more than $26,000, and that's not including the power. I asked Southern Response and IAG how they calculated the amount a claimant could spend on short-term housing. Only Southern Response replied, the amount depends on the type of policy held when the earthquakes hit. Premium policy holders are entitled to a maximum temporary accommodation allowance of up to 25% of the contents insured at the time of the loss. The Tenants Protection Association isn't a fan of short-term rentals. The group says the market rents are set by using the total figures, including the high short-term rental rates.
With insurance companies prepared to pay those sort of amounts for private rentals, it's going to distort the figures.
On Trade Me, there are more than 130 listings for short-term rentals costing more than $1,000 a week. They all vary in quality. Depending on your budget, you could hire this average-looking Linwood property for $1,000 a week with cracks in the driveways. Or for the same price as this penthouse apartment, you could hire Michelle's rental when she moves out. That'll be $1,500, please.
If there weren't so many short-term rentals, I don't know where we'd be, because it's not that easy to find somewhere that will take a dog.
Gregory can't understand how some landlords are finding tenants when their homes are nothing special.
For example, what we rent, or this house that you've been through now, I think it's much better value for money than those $900, $1,000 homes in not so well-off areas.
The Tenants Protection Association says even the cheaper short-term rentals at $600, $700 or $800 a week are too expensive for some people.
And a lot of people that are coming out for EQC repairs with no contents insurance are also unable to pay, so they can't find short-term accommodation that is affordable for them.
Substandard homes are common across the whole renting market. Laura and Mike Field are expecting their first child soon and need to find a home fast.
So we've had a problem over the last 4 weeks or something like that. We noticed that we had a leak. We reckon it's in the roof above our boiler. We've now got a problem that's not being fixed where we've got a lot of moisture coming in, the carpet's soaking, and obviously moisture plus boiler is heat and therefore mould that won't go away. I keep cleaning this. I've cleaned this door so many times and it just keeps coming back.
Mike's complained to his landlord but has yet to hear back.
What I don't understand is if it was my house, then I'd know. I've got a problem here already. I've got a leak. Something's obviously not right. Because he's not done anything about it yet, it's now 4 weeks down the track and we've got a rotten carpet and mould growing up through the carpet. So it's problems just compound, don't they? One problem becomes a lot of problems. This carpet's going to have to get replaced because it's knackered. The inside of this cupboard's all rotten because it's been left for so long. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but...
The couple have saved up their deposit and they're ready to start house hunting. Good luck to them. The Tenants Protection Association says Laura and Mike's problems with rotting carpet is nothing compared to the cases that come across their desk. These photos highlight how bad some homes are.
We're seeing a lot more properties that are not up to standard, and people are paying the rent simply because they don't have anywhere else to go.
The association is receiving about 8 new complaints every week. Each one focuses on landlords neglecting their damaged and mouldy properties. Over 6 months, that figure quickly adds up. This couple's mouldy problems aren't quite as extreme as the cases that come across the TPA's desk, but with a baby on the way, they need to get into their own home fast. Coming up, will our renters find their dream home?
The rules kind of changed, didn't they, while we were here? We've only been here 2 years, but we were aiming for 10%.
And then it was like almost trying to catch up as the house prices were increasing.
Mike and Laura are leaving their Mount Pleasant rental behind. They've made a trip to Cass Bay to see if they can find a home to bring up their new baby. But they aren't your usual first home buyers.
No, we're not typical first-time buyers. We're slightly older, I think, than average. I'm 30 and Laura's 29.
Laura works as a doctor. Together they've saved up $90,000 for a deposit. This puts them well above the budget of typical first-home buyers. Instead, they're looking to spend up to $500,000 on the right house.
The rules kind of changed, didn't they,
Yeah.
while we were here? We've only been here 2 years, but we were aiming for 10%.
And then it was like almost trying to catch up as the house prices were increasing. Just kind of almost playing, because, you know, the house prices were going up so much that 20% was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And just not being able to, you know, you couldn't save as quickly as the houses were going up, so...
The couple's residency was approved a month ago. Since then, they've been checking out various open homes around the city.
There's usually 3 or 4 other couples there, and usually by the time I've got there, they're already in feverish conversation with the real estate agent. So you get the impression that you're already too late by the time you've turned up.
The way Mike describes an open home makes it sound like the flat viewing I saw earlier. I decided to see whether it was that bad. I chose a 2-bedroom home in the middle of Papanui. The owner was seeking more than $359,000 for the unit. That's pretty cheap for Christchurch. That's cheap because Quotable Value has reported the city's house prices jumping 11.1% within a year. They now average $457,744. Back to the open home now, and a crowd of people soon arrived. Inside it looked dated, but that didn't stop one eager buyer putting in an offer within the first 10 minutes. Ruff and his partner Tina are also 2 not-so-typical first-home buyers. Ruff's 37 years old and Tina's 33. They've spent months hunting for a good first home. They cycle from one to another, but they're often outbidded.
Yeah, pretty busy. We have that feeling that we're losing our weekends, going every week to 4 or 5 open homes, often on Sunday, sometimes on Saturday like today.
Last year, the couple were looking at similar homes as this one, but they were all $100,000 less. They're shocked at how fast the market's moving. However, after taking a look at the place, they were left feeling impressed.
We are first home buyers, so this one definitely got potential, you know, and it's only just the 2 of us as well, so for us it probably would be big enough. So
they weren't the only ones considering putting in an offer.
You know, with the amount of inquiry I've had on it, absolutely, I don't suspect it'll be on the market next week.
Deadline sales have been the main reason they haven't found a place.
And so you put in your best offer, and sometimes you miss out. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's a little, but yeah, it's frustrating.
Both these couples wanting to buy their first house are in their late 20s or even late 30s. But 3 years ago, a 20-year-old from Wood End purchased her first home. She'd been saving to buy the property since she was 14 years old.
Why did you want to buy a house?
I just like the idea of spending your money on your own property rather than paying someone else's mortgage.
Rachel finally purchased her first home after the June 2011 earthquake, when market confidence and prices were low. Since then, the market's boomed, and even her 2-bedroom home in Wood End has surged in value by close to $100,000. She's only been able to achieve this success by working hard. For 8 years, she worked behind the bar at the local pub.
8 nights and lots of hours.
The home didn't look this nice when she first purchased it. With the help of her family and partner, it's been transformed. Well, mostly. It still needs a bit of work. This dated bath will need to go. Today they're stripping some of the original wallpaper. Her partner's lending a hand.
It needed a lot of work. It was pretty run down and yeah, not very nice, to be honest.
And so for the last 3 years you've kind of been working on it?
Yeah, we started off just ripping the carpet and stuff like that up and ripping different cupboards and that off, and then the kitchen was the big thing. We got all that completely gutted and put a new one in.
She knows she was fortunate to buy when she did.
Do you think you could do it now if you had to do it all over again?
What, at this age?
In this current market as well?
No, probably not. Not without like a guarantor or something like that. I think it'd be too pricey and too much to borrow.
As rent prices continue to increase and the cost of buying a home slips further and further out of grasp, more people are giving up on the dream of owning their own slice of New Zealand property. A unit inside apartment blocks like this is fast becoming the only affordable option. However, by following Rachel's example, we've learnt that you can get ahead if you start saving early on. Past trends suggest the cost of housing usually goes up. Instead of aiming for brand new houses, maybe the best way to get ahead on the property ladder is to buy a house needing work. Real estate agents say first home buyers are seeking any property between $300,000 and $400,000. At these prices, homes are walking out the door.
Well, to be quite honest, it always astounds me how the first homeowners can afford that sort of level of housing. You know, at the end of the day, when we bought homes, you sort of bought an old rickety old thing and you worked from your way up from there, but nowadays they seem to want the house that mum and dad has.
Total Realty is selling 85 Christchurch homes every month, but during the peak of last year, a small team of 12 were selling 100 a month.
March, April last year was when it was just manic. It was just, you couldn't list a thing without it going sort of multi-offer. Everything was, just going through the roof.
What does the future hold for house buyers? Can house prices continue to go up? There's a limit to what banks will lend. If house prices get too far above incomes and the ability of people to afford mortgages, then demand will naturally drop off, and house prices must ease downwards. It's happened before, in 2000 and again in 2008, after the global financial crisis. If housing prices go in cycles, within 2 years could we see houses becoming more affordable? Already real estate agents are seeing sales start to drop off. Have homes already reached their peak prices?
It has certainly slowed down. We're getting less numbers through our open homes at the moment. However, in saying that, the market is still moving. It's definitely not come to a standstill by any stretch of the imagination. So it's pretty good.
While the ambitious anchor projects are facing delays, the private sector commercial rebuild has powered ahead. Insiders say it'll be over within the next 2 years, reducing the demand for construction workers and in turn their need for housing. There are about 13,000 homes still waiting to be repaired. However, Fletcher EQR has told contracting builders that the home repair workload is slowing down, suggesting they should start looking for work elsewhere. In a year or two, most earthquake repairs should be completed. Demand for short-term rentals will then dry up, releasing properties back onto the long-term rental market. This will ease rental prices, or these places could be put up for sale, potentially flooding the market. Either way, prices for rentals and house purchasing can be expected to fall. My question is, when the rebuild workers do leave Christchurch, will the pressure on the housing market finally ease? And that's this week's Street Story.